Download the BCSN Plus app today. Visit bcsnnation.com for details.
Catholic League Spotlight today. We are heading to Central Catholic. We have the head coach of the JV girls basketball team and the assistant coach of the varsity girls lacrosse team, Angelina Mendieta. Angelina, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's start with lacrosse. 4-14 season. You guys get knocked out of the playoffs by Vincent St. Mary's. Tough season, sure, but what can you guys take away from this year and bring to next year?
I think setting new standards and having new horizons. This year was the first time in career history that we had a girl have 100 points, whether that be goals and assists. I think there's a new competitive nature that we're trying to bring, something that I can remember as a player I strive for, and so that's definitely something that we're trying to ingrain this year.
And it's one thing to coach, but it's a whole nother deal to coach at your alma mater. Considering you came back to coaching after spending a year studying in Barcelona, how did that transition kind of work out, going from studying overseas to now coaching at your alma mater?
I would definitely say it was abrupt. Not only to kind of revert back to in kind of an American way of basketball, there where it's not institutionalized, there's a lot of street ball, so I was having a lot of fun, kind of leisurely. But coming back into an organized, structured program, something that I really remember being in tip-top shape as I left it. It's just been super great and rewarding, and it's fun to see the legacy trickle down between my years and years to come.
Especially since you're a former player, how do you want to see that spirit implemented in your team?
As something our assistant coach, Brent Mattis, always says, is that we don't just wear the Irish, we wear the fighting Irish. And I think that competitive nature is something that we've been trying to instill since the beginning of the season, but to also kind of grow into that role this summer. We have a lot of returning girls on the basketball team, a lot of returners in lacrosse as well, and I think it's something that culturally that we can kind of instill within our tradition with Lady Irish sports.
And we know how great you were as a player. We showed your highlights on this very network. And it's interesting because in your previous interviews way back in 2019 when you graduated, you talked about how the style of play for your team was playing quick, getting up the court fast. How many things do you take away from your time as a player and kind of implement as your time as a coach?
Yeah, back when I was coached by Corey Stanley, I think that's something that she just ingrained in us as well is playing at a fast pace, playing with a lot of heart, but also, like I said, playing with that fighting Irish across our chest. I think I always, in my head, I'm thinking, what would Corey do in these situations? And I think whether that's something that I'm teaching them, instructing them about, basketball-wise, or even just as young ladies, I think that's something that we're looking to do, not just focus on the athletics, but also the student aspect of that as well.
What's the biggest thing you take away from Corey and bring to your game as a coach? I know there's probably a lot that you've learned over your time as a basketball player, but if you could pick out one, what would it be?
Playing fierce. I think that's something that we kind of always had within our team, starting in 2015 with Bertie Galernick as one of our head seniors, kind of creating such a dominant culture, the athletic dominance, to my senior year getting knocked out by Rogers against Zy Cook. Kind of just trying to show, the peak of women's basketball in Toledo, and I think it's a great atmosphere for that as well. Is
there anything you would say to your 2019 self, knowing that you have the experience and perspective as a leader?
Yeah, I would say have patience. I think I always am thinking, also back into when I was this year, what would I want as a freshman playing basketball? What would I want as a senior to see as a role model? And so that's always something I try to emulate is what would I have needed in this time? And that's someone that's always going to have my back, but also push me to new lengths.
And at the peak of a program led by you, what does that program look like?
I would say selflessness, and I would say trust. That's something that I've always kind of brought with me from my college team to here is having your teammates back, whether that's something that you can control, something they can control. Having that kind of trust and that undeniable connection is something that I hope is going to fortify all my teams moving forward.
I don't think you're going to find a better example of the fighting Irish spirit than Angelina Mendieta. Angelina, thank you so much. We could probably talk for hours, but I know we're on a time crunch here, but thank you so much for taking the time.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.